I think a report like this, so the Future of Gas report and the associated panel and discussion, is a great opportunity for us as a firm, but also for our contacts and industry leaders to come together to share ideas and also discuss some really important themes and trends which are affecting the global gas market. A really great and topical conversation, I think, to be having now.
For some reason, we as Brits really quite like gas. It's not the case everywhere in Europe, but it is a slight peculiarity. So I think because gas has been a steady, quiet deliverer of energy, I think that people underestimate its importance to us today.
Demand is growing really fast, particularly in Asia. And there's a queue of LNG ships now heading in the direction of China and displacing even coal, which would have not been thought of previously. And then, as well as demand growing, there's just an abundance of gas resource. The world is awash with gas, particularly in the US and Russia.
Clearly, gas will play a major role in both domestic heating and power generation, but let's say, my question is, will that be enough to guarantee a bright future to gas going forward?
The problem with gas is that it's not a liquid and it's not a solid, it's gaseous. And so it's bloody expensive to transport. And you either got to build massive pipelines or new liquefaction projects, and neither come cheap.
Security of supply, I think, is very much coming up the government's agenda on the gas side, and it's not just about a power issue anymore. So, you know, for me, it's how do we look at our market in terms of how attractive is it? How do we compare in terms of costs to other potential hubs? And how do we, you know, particularly in the shorter term, sort of steer our way through all of the uncertainty that will be there over the next 2 years with Brexit.
To try and resolve this problem of markets and security supply, you either have to get rid of your carbon targets, or push those back into the future, but doesn't seem terribly likely to happen, or you need to encourage more baseload capacity through different incentive mechanisms. Over the next few years, particularly in a world which is going to be awash with LNG, it's difficult to see other sources of new projects coming on stream.
Looking ahead, is there a place for gas, say post 2050? Can it compete with renewables?
Gas will always play a role in it. It's a much cleaner fuel than some of the other alternatives. It's also, going back to the initial question as to how we look at gas and its usage in the future, I think it can be used as a base fuel resource for other more progressive developments.
New technology is coming along. There's lots of talk of hydrogen in the future, but we're already seeing large amounts of biogas in certain parts of the country. And there are lots of different technologies out there. So again, is it the future of gas or is it the future of gases? Everything is so much easier if you have CCS and potentially more affordable. And certainly one of the big messages that we have for government, which is around that we need to get that back onto the agenda and to work out whether the parts of the supply chain that we know work in isolation can then work together.
In today's panel, I think the bit that struck me the most was the questions around energy security and diversification of supply, particularly in the UK and Europe, where you've got US LNG competing with Russian pipelines. So that was really interesting to see how that will evolve over the coming decades.
So the role of gas is changing, and the big challenges, I think, are twofold. Firstly, the decarbonisation agenda, which is going to constrain potential gas demand, particularly in markets like Europe. And then secondly, because gas is now so abundant as from a resource perspective, there's going to be a lot of projects which have come online in recent years which are never going to recover their capital costs. And that's going to act as a constraint on potential investors who want to invest in new projects, particularly in greenfield sites.
So it's fantastic to have the panel event this evening. It really gave us an opportunity to bring together people from very different places in the gas value chain. And one of the most interesting things from my point of view that came out of this discussion was really how the public and private sector fit together on this. And so if you take, for example, an issue like carbon capture and storage, CCS, everyone is in complete agreement, violent agreement, that CCS is fundamental to meeting our carbon reduction targets. And yet in terms of how that's delivered, there's really, really interesting differences. And I think if there's one message that we would really take from this, it's that CCS is really central to making gas work in the future. And I think it's going to take a level of guidance and of support from the government that we haven't seen so far.